How is everybody this evening? Can you hear me? Can you hear him? No, he's that side. And him.
Now you might be able to because I'm making noises, but before I definitely wasn't.
Oh dear. Good evening, everybody.
There we go. Now the thing is live.
Excellent.
Okay, so before we go any further, today's my turn. We're doing Godotings. So I will not be watching chat. So Mikey's in charge of chat. So if I miss things, it's Mikey.
Good evening. We've got Jared. Hello. Todd. Hello. Roderick. Hello. Bunza. Hello.
You okay there?
No. Squirrel.
So Mikey, how are you this week?
Oh man, it's just started. So it's a very good start to the week. I've got an exciting announcement
Have you?
next week, so make sure you tune in for the blender thing. Because
Oh, I see. So
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
good one, is it?
yeah, hook, got to hook you all in. No, I'm waiting for some information, and then we'll start getting excited about it. All being well. So yes, I'm very excited for that, and I'm hoping that there won't be any delays to it either. And it's free to some people as well.
Ooh, that is
Everybody likes something that's free. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Free is nice.
Jan is being very brave this evening because he's going to use Godot 4. Alpha 14, is it?
Alpha 14. I am regretting my braveness because I was going to show off some of the navigation mesh and I've missed something with
That's
navigation.
fine.
Like,
may
what
just
I've
be
done
broken.
is create a completely non-moving character simulator.
Good evening, Mindstammer.
Good evening.
Yes. Yes, free. You heard me right. But you'll have to find out more next week.
That's right. Mikey's just giving away all his money.
Wait a minute. It's empty. It's empty.
Okay, well, that part of the demo is not going to work, but that's fine. That's fine. We just won't play with that, and I'll hide this in my gizmos. So yeah, I thought what I'd do is I'd take a look at the current state of Godot 4 Alpha 14. I'm not going to do like everything Godot 4 does because that will be crazy.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of stuff we can look at, including they added something to particles with Alpha 14 that I just love. And it's not a big thing and it's very silly, but I still love it. So what I'm going to do
is this what you were showing me the other day?
It is what I was showing you the other day.
Awesome.
My collision shapes. There we go. And I'm going to share my screen.
Todd asks the question: do you guys check the email listed on your YouTube channel? We do.
Yes. Well, Mikey's been doing that recently. I've been.
I'm just checking the spam folder because I've not checked the spam folder in a while. Oh. Ooh.
Okay, Mikey, can you see my screen?
I can. They can't. So let's make that change like so. Now, I'm going to put a little Jan in the bottom like so. There we go.
I'm a little Jan.
Yes, I'll remember to move you out of the way if you're going into your assets folder, into your file system.
So what I've done here, and some of you might recognize this, is I have moved my microphone so that you can hear me a bit better. I have gotten some of our dungeon assets from our dungeon asset patch, and I've just put together a very, very simple level. My original idea was to play with navigation servers, which is working fine, except it's not reachable. So I missed something crucial, and I don't really want to mess around with that on air because that's not going to be fun. So instead, let's play with some lighting and some particles and some fun effects, because that's what I'm going to like to do. First off, here's what the scene is going to look like at present, right? So that global light is just for when you're building, that directional light. So here we have a gray background casting gray light. So it's not interesting. So that's what we're going to fix. And I'm going to fix that by starting with.
Now, before you just continue, can we just have a shout out? Is Jan audible? I know last time we switched to your face and your screen, it went a bit funny. So hopefully you can still all hear him, because we wouldn't want a repeat of last time. I got in trouble.
Oh, did you?
It's fine, Jan. Stop beating me.
This is Jan's world.
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Continue.
Great. All right, world environment. So we have our new world environment, and it says, oh no, there's no environment. So I'm going to give it a brand new environment. And now it doesn't say, oh no, there's no environment, because there is one. But this is a bit of a rubbish environment. There's nothing in it. So let's fix that, Mikey.
Go for it.
I'm going to play with a few different kinds of sky. Let's start with our background mode to sky. And here we have a black sky with strange bright ambient light. Well, that's not very interesting. Instead, let's go to our sky and make a new one. So I've made a sky mode, and here's my sky, brand new sky. Click on that. And we have some options. Now, the one I like best at the moment is physical sky. So here's my physical sky. And Mikey, do you know why I like this physical sky? Because it crashes Godot.
I just turned and looked. It was like, I just see a rose. What's going on?
Yeah.
What have I missed?
Let's try that again. This has been happening to me a lot. So we got a lot of messages from people saying, "Hey, Godot 4 looks pretty stable. You're going to start the course yet?" I'm like, it's not stable. Like,
Really,
I don't know what to tell you guys. I managed to crash it like 9 times in half an hour the other day. Okay, there's my character. Let's do that again. So I'm gonna get rid of my navigation region.
Good evening, Genko.
And collision shape should be gone. And let's open the level again. And it's still there. Fine. You can just live there. That's fine. I don't care about that.
So
but you know
obviously don't do it, but which part of that was the environment will crash Godot at the moment?
I don't know.
Oh,
it's an excellent question.
So it's not when you load in like an HDRI or anything, it's when you use
no,
built-in
it's
sky?
just random crashes.
Okay.
I mean, particles I can make crash pretty consistently if I try it. But yeah, Godot 4 is very close to beta. It is not production ready, right? They say this on the site. This is for experimentation and bug testing. So just do what we did before. New environment, new sky, make a new sky. And here is my new sky. And I will tell it it's a physical sky. Mike, do you know why I like physical skies?
Because they're easy to set up.
Not entirely, although yes, they are. Here is a directional light, which I shall give a shadow.
They're cheap on RAM because HDRI or high dynamic range images are nuts when you get a high quality one. They're like hundreds of megs in size.
It's a good guess, but it's not actually the case.
Because it looks pretty.
Because we can have dynamic lighting just by rotating a directional light.
Yes, because it's faking an atmosphere and a horizon and it going through a much thicker atmosphere.
So when I go over here and I look at my physical sky processes, I get options for the Raleigh and the Mai. And what that does is let's make the top blue a really sort of deep blue like that. And this Mai down here is going to be the haze around the sun. Let's make that a bit more yellowy.
Oh, you can adjust those. Nice.
Yep. And there's a bunch of other things we could do. Like, I don't know much about the coefficient. If we had an HDRI for a night sky, we could just dump it in there. And then when the directional light was facing the wrong way.
Like stars and stuff.
Yep.
Or a planet.
So there you go. You get your dynamic day-night cycles. And it's just animating this thing.
That is so awesome.
Which I'm a big fan of. However, what if we don't want that? What if that's a bit too daylighty? And I want something a bit more nighttime-y. So let's go for something a bit more nighttime-y. In my world environment, I don't want a sky. Let's go with a custom color. Great. So there's my custom color. I've got my directional light for now. I'm going to keep it. But what I am going to do is go into my floors. Where's my empty floor? And I'm just going to make a ceiling.
And we're going to trap the light in. Or block the light out, more specifically.
Exactly. Just like the ancient sage once said, who trapped the light out?
Who?
All right.
Who?
So here we are in a very, very dark scene. Let's make this pretty. In fact, you know what? Let's put the camera down here as well. Camera, you can live.
So Flame Blizzard has just said, oh, that looks so pretty. Also, good evening.
I mean, the Godot 4 lighting engine is probably the thing I've been most excited about. Now, full disclosure, I have a background in technical theatre with a little bit of theatre lighting in there. I was more of a stage manager than a lighting person. I'm the son of a lighting person, so I know just enough to be ignorant. But here is a pure black room. So if I run this scene right now, we should have darkness with a little bit of doorway. All right. So that means we don't need this directional light anymore. If I turn off the shadow, we'd be able to see it, but I don't want this directional light. Let's make this pretty. And to do that, we're going to bring in, let's start with an Omni light.
I'll tell you, the temptation of not going nom 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 nomny light.
Let's start with an omni light. Okay, so this is not how I would like a scene, but just to show what we can do here. If I put the shadows on, and I don't want open white lighting. Sorry, that's a theater thing. I don't want pure white lighting because you don't really see that in nature. So I'm going to take a slightly warmish thing like that. Okay, great. So far, so good, right? This is just lighting. Like, this looks slightly different to Godot 3 because we're using a different engine. Let's start putting in the fun thing. So the big one is SDFGI, and that's going to calculate the light bounces, but we can help it along by putting on SSIL. And I'm also going to put on some reflections and some ambient occlusion, and let's put some glow on as well. Okay, so all I've done is I've just told Godot, put on all your lighting techniques at once with a single Omni light that shows shadows, right? It's not an interesting light, but let's take a look at how that's going to look.
Can I just jump in quickly for a bit of terminology?
Yep.
So anything with SS on the front of it is nothing to do with German World War II stuff. It is all to do with screen space. So when you have screen space reflections or screen space ambient occlusion, what's critical with that is it's only going to do what's on the screen at the time. So if you've got a really monolithic tower blocking out sunlight, but it's off your screen, the shadow or the ambient occlusion that it may cast will disappear if there was such a thing as SSS, which would be like the screen space shadows.
So we have a pretty boringly lit thing. It's a bit more lighting, right? It's a simple, slightly off-white thing to look slightly warm, but nothing else is lit. So let's start doing this with some different om-nom-nom lights built on torches. Now, the torches I have are from the dungeon asset pack that we made, and they are still Godot 4 particles. So we're actually going to change those a little bit. So let's go down to, where's my torch?
Flame Lizard says that you'll probably like it even more when Clayjon finishes his work on the lighting with the physical light units.
Oh yeah, no, I'm desperately looking forward to it. Like, what I like about this is it's already a really mature lighting and effects engine, but it's visually distinct from Unreal and Unity. So it's not trying to reinvent the wheel; it's just trying to do its own thing. Now we're using very, very flat. In fact, we don't have textures; we have blank colors with a very stylized look, right? So they're not all going to look like this. So you're not going to be stuck with a cartoony look. We wanted a cartoony look, which is why we've got them in. Okay, so let's play a little bit with this light and part. Actually, you know what? That light is pretty good. Let me just check how we're doing here. Did I already fix these? I think I might have done.
Maybe. Good evening, BB Game Dev. And Roderick says, Om nom nom nomny light is the little light bulb in the fridge. Is it not?
It is. That's exactly what it is. Although you should not eat it.
Or lick it.
Just, bear with me one moment. Process material. Yes. Okay. I've already fixed these. Great. So some things to look at here. What am I bringing in? Well, we looked at some basic particles a few weeks back. So all I've got is this soft edge circle coming in here. And it's just a billboard effect. So if I look over at our material, excuse me, Kat, I need you not to do that. No, off the keyboard. Thank you so very much. It's unshaded. I've got some alphas. I'm not adding them together. I could do if I wanted it a bit brighter. So let's put it like that. And as you can see with the SGFGIs, we've got a little glow halo around the lights already. But the important one is here, particle billboard, because these are just quads, right? So you can only see them from one angle. I don't want to just put billboard because then we won't get a lot of the particle effects that we need. And I certainly don't want Y billboard. So always make sure particle billboard, because that way, if you want to scale things up and down, if you want to animate the sprites in there, all of that will come through. I also want to not receive shadows. Now, it shouldn't be doing that anyway because it's unshaded. And cast shadow is off, right? Because it's fire. Great. Some other fun things that we've just put that they've recently put in, the one that they've recently put in that I really love is turbulence. Now, turbulence is amazing. So right now, here's our particle, right? It's quite thick at the top. It's coming in a bit. There's a little bit of randomness in how long each particle lasts, but it's pretty simple. If we put in turbulence, it's using a noise texture to simulate a breeze. And the difference that makes on our level is actually kind of phenomenal. It's a very, very subtle thing, but it's a very cool subtle thing. So let's put that a bit there and just get this lit a bit better. Let's put in stone brazier. There we go. I made a particle for that too. And I'll take you through that particle in a little bit. Let's just move you to here. Thank you. And do. All right. I don't currently have movement controls on my character, so I should probably do that because I was trying to make this a navigation thing. So instead of a navigation thing, let's get rid of navigation agent. Let's get rid of this raycast. Don't need those. Let's get rid of the script. Let's not give it a new script. Let's change what type it is. So change type. You are now a character body 3D, which I believe should have the built-in script.
Whilst you're just having a look at that, Genko says, for anybody interested in stylization and wants to know more or understand it better, 80.lv, 80 level, has a pretty good article on it. Yes, I love that site. Absolutely gold mine of information.
Okay, so I've apparently just...
Thanks, Flame Lizard. Take care.
Full disclosure, I haven't used the pre-built character script before, so I'm just checking that that's a thing. Okay, it's reversed. That's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take doohickey here and rotate by 180 and take our camera and add as a child of the character. And let's go for a walk. Okay, this is very, very simple. There's no turning. There's just strafing. This is the built-in character script. Obviously, you're supposed to do it, but it's just to show you what this looks like moving around. The torches are a bit high, but already just with 4 light sources, we've got a lot more character in here. But wait, Mikey.
There's more.
There's more.
We have a question whilst you're going back to the editor. What is the difference between using the node for the level versus using the spatial node?
The spatial node is gone.
There we go.
Node 3D is the new spatial. The node, as opposed to node 3D, if that's your question, node has no positional information. So if I take a look at our node 3D and look at the documentation, we can see what it inherits, right? So what's happening here is it inherits basic node and then adds in the following properties and methods. So it has access to everything in node, which is all of this stuff. So you can get path, you can get is processing, you can get print tree, you can get whatever else from within a node 3D, but it is node plus this. That's why when you do a script, the first thing you'll see on your script is extends something. This is the old script. Let's take a look at the existing script. Extends character body 3D. What does that mean? It means it is a character body with extra bits. Okay, so that's the main difference. It's going to have a bunch of spatial information, a bunch of coordinates. Technically, I don't actually need it for a level. It would work just fine as a node as opposed to a node 3D, but I've got it in there. However, we want to be able to look pretty. Let's go back to the world environment, and we want to add a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some fog. Now, this is too much fog. Let's take our fog, and I don't remember how to do this. I think
someone's gone wild with the smoke machine.
Yep, this reminds me of my clubbing days. There we go. Okay, So we did a font 0.25. Come back. There we go. Okay. Now, this is dry ice, right? Let's change that a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that orange light we've got, just make it a little bit darker. And that's just going to give a little bit of an edge to things. Let's see how that looks. Let's see how that looks.
That's got so much more atmosphere already.
Yep. And one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some volumetrics. Now, technically, volumetrics can give you God rays, but in order to do that, you kind of have to push the boundaries of what the default values are so much that you end up getting something that doesn't look good. So instead, well, first let's describe what a volumetric fog is. If I turn fog off, the idea of volumetric fog is it's fog with positional information. So the further out you look, the more thingamy it is, the more help.
Thicker. The thicker it is.
Thank you. The thicker it is. Let's give this a little bit of emission. Make it nice and toxic.
I don't think that was the right tune.
Oh, I used to be a professor, you know.
And you're slipping under.
Yeah. Okay, so
I
nice.
apologize for anybody wearing headphones like me.
Or who has, you know, musical talent.
Oh, dear. Yep.
All right. So just by playing with the environmental effects, I've now made something that's a lot more smoky and toxic, right? This feels like a much more kind of dead space, right? And the reason for that is we have this orange candlelight going on. We have this brown orange fog at the floor, and we have a golden brown emitting volumetric light. So between all of those, we end up with this very icky kind of a feel. We might not want icky, right? We might want like a nice cool day. So let's go for a nice cold day.
So each time that you're playing with these settings, obviously the editor's updating, but you still jump in and play the scene?
Yes, mostly because I want to see it without all these things in the way. Like if we want to just move around, I can actually hide all of the like collision shapes and everything else. But the lighting, I mean, at the moment we've got the build light on, right? So this build light is there because I'm in the editor.
Yeah.
But if I go into the game, that goes away and things get a little darker.
Yeah.
Let's see if this looks a little colder. Getting there. I mean, I'll probably have to play with the fog a little bit and stuff like that, but we're certainly getting there. I kind of like the other one better, so I'm going to put them back. Actually, what do you guys think? What kind of fog do you want to see?
I mean, one of the other things to pay attention to is we've got orange lighting in the scene. So any fog color that you're going to go with, if it doesn't line up or complement,
I mean, you could
those
go
orange lights.
full like 80s garishness, right? Which, you know, if you want to go synthwave, you go synthwave. Personally, I was always more cybergoth than synthwave, but do your thing. Also, the brighter the fog, the easier it's going to be to see. So if we do that, we've got an actual dry ice machine.
Yeah.
Which can be a great effect, right? It's like the floor is still under there, so you can still make out details as you get closer.
That would be great for like a very low mist in a swamp environment. So yeah,
I would actually take that and double it with a particle just to give it a bit of a billowing effect.
Yeah.
Although there are other ways we could do that.
Mike as a cybergoth, this I want to see. I'm too.
No, I was a cybergoth. That's Mike. I'm Jan.
But we need to now. I need to go work out what a cybergoth looks like. So,
I can help you with that. Would you like to see a picture of me age 28, Michael, when I was about to go out clubbing?
You still clubbed at 28. Yeah, go on.
Bear in mind, I'm 46 now. Like this is a while back. Where's my pictures?
Yeah. Whilst Jan's looking for that lovely picture. Hey, I like it. I didn't
All right,
have
this one's
anything quite that fancy.
this me with the black lipstick
And
and
this
the
was the
electric ball.
resolution of cameras when you were 28 as well.
Actually, this is the resolution of reality. Like everything was just pixely and blurry and slightly washed out. It's like if you go back further, color hadn't been invented yet.
That is very true.
Now I'm getting a lot of errors on the SDFGI, which is part of the bugs right now. I might actually have to turn it off and on again just to stop this error count. No, it's still going. Great.
All the errors. So
Yeah.
we've got BB Game Dev. He's asked, can you distort the fog shape so it isn't so uniform? So can you like put a noise texture or something like that to change how the fog behaves?
I don't believe so, but maybe we can. There's a sun scatter. That's not it. I don't see a shape for it. However, there might be other ways of doing that. So let's take a look.
Yes, because looking at that, there's a uniform density slider, so there's not
right. So it looks very artificial if it's too thick. That's why I'm making it thicker, darker, because then it's doohickey what's it.
I'll tell you what, Roderick. Roderick wants to see me in an ABBA-style disco outfit. I remember I did that as part of the musical group at school. So there is a chance that somewhere in the world is lurking a photo of me dressed up in 70s disco gear.
That is horrifying.
It is.
All right, so let's make a very simple particle. Let's say very simple. I'm saying very simple because I want it to not take all day. You can go. Oops, no, don't rotate. Yeah, you can go there. That's fine. All right. What's your error? You don't have a particle. That's a good error to have. All right, new particle material. This should be pretty familiar to people who were here a couple of weeks back. New quad mesh. You probably don't need to be that big. You certainly don't need to be that big, but you will need a material. Okay, so we want alpha. We don't need to add it because we're keeping it nice and dark.
So you're currently generating the texture that's going to be repeated all over the place.
Well, what I'm actually doing is crashing my computer.
Uh-oh.
Right. So I think that's because SDFGI was causing a bunch of errors. So I need to
relaunch.
Boo, boo. I've got that song in my head now. I even like that song.
Now, could you imagine recording a course with a program that crashed? In fact, could you imagine recording one video and you just have to pray to the Godot gods that it actually stays stable?
Imagining it right now. Can you see from the panic attack? Yes, no, I can imagine that because I have nightmares sometimes.
I've done it when Blender 2.8 was in alpha. It was a slog, but I got through. But no, I aged massively as it was going.
All right, let's see. All right, we're not getting a bunch of crashes. Great. So let's go to world environment and get rid of that fog and start that again. So let's make a new GPU particles 3D, and let's move it into the starter room. And I've accidentally changed the extents. God, I'm good.
So have you been saving, or has Godot been saving as we've
Every time you press play, it saves, but I've also been saving. All right, so here is going to be our particle, and let's do this bit again. So new particle.
Todd says, only 2 crashes in 30 minutes. Ship it. It works way better than some apps already. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
But it's a really frustrating way to develop. Like, so far, these crashes have been pretty good, but you guys remember, like, back in Alpha 3, we did a little bit of a test with navigation and procedure-generated maps, and it looked pretty good. When Alpha 12 came out, I went to open it, do some work on it, and the entire thing was corrupt and unsalvageable. Like, that's bad. Now, yes, if you're using repos and all the rest of it, Git repos, you can fix that, but you shouldn't have to rely on that just to get by day by day. Like it's not quite there yet. All right, alpha.
That's a nice rose you've got.
Here's a nice rose I've got. All right.
Force. Yes. It's a feature, Jan. It's called a forced break
Here's one I
time.
prepared earlier. That's going to make sense only to people who grew up in the UK in the 90s.
It's a good freeze frame of
and
me.
80s. Yep.
There we go.
So here's the scene we were making. This is definitely the one we were making. This is it. This is the scene we were making. We were going to play with this a little bit later.
We're not gaslighting anybody here. This is what the scene would have turned out with.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm thinking is there is something we can do here with collisions and particles. So here's my flames particle. And if I bring in let's do a static body. Let's put that there. And where do you go? As a child of static body, let's put in a mesh. And actually, you know what? This doesn't have to be a static body. I'll show you why in a minute. Ball. Let's get ball, and that's going to be a sphere. And it doesn't need to be that big. So let's say
rugby ball
of 0.5. Great. Okay. As a child of that, I'm going to put in particle collision sphere 3D. And that's going to have the same radius. Radius and diameter are not the same thing. Okay, so far, so what? We have a ball. It's just sort of there. It's not doing anything. But let's go back into a particle. And not that collision.
Oh, yes, we had this the other day. There's more than one thing called collision.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm not a huge fan of that one. Okay, collision is enabled. So I believe if I take this material, I wonder if going alpha is going to...
Let's see it going round.
Crash it again. Okay. So just making that a little bit transparent. Let's slow that down. Making that a little bit transparent so we can see what's happening here. But if I take the ball, see how let's turn off the turbulence as well, just so it's nice and clear what's happening. So turbulence off. There we go. All right. See how the particles are collecting here?
Squish the flames.
So I'm wondering if you could do something like that with a large particle. Like, don't do the entire thing. Like, center it on the player so it looks natural, but have like billowing cloud particles that react to the player. We can also, to make this a little bit more fun, let's go back over here, go to our collision, and give it some. It's got bounce. We can take bounce off to make it cling.
I mean, that you could even have that as your torch, and as you pass through narrower hallways or a low ceiling.
Yeah, you'd have to put collision boxes on doorways and walls and stuff like that. You could absolutely do that. There's other ways you can use this though. Like you could, let's put that there.
Does it? Can you give it a collision layer like you can do most collisions?
The particle, no. I think the collision shape, yes. But there's other things you could do. For instance, on your main level, here's my room. We could put in a collision box or a collision. Okay, is there a collision plane? There's a vector field. We could put in a vector field, and then if we have snow or rain or sparks, they could bounce off the floor or settle on the floor. So if you've got a level with a bunch of rain or a bunch of snow or something like that, that's how you can have it like settling on the roof. You look like you had a question.
No, I was going to say, see ya to Genko, but then I typed it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, another fun thing we can do, and I like this one a lot. Let's check our fire has great. Okay. In fact, let's do it over here. Here's a giant sculpture of Bob. And I'm just going to make sure that these flames have a tractor on. Yes, they do. Excellent.
Ooh. I know what that means.
Yep. So let's make a particle attractor sphere. Meow, meow.
Have you been watching Star Trek recently?
I have not. In fact, I don't have a television. But if I bring this close,
That's awesome.
right? Like, and it's not just going to be Bob. Like, all of these currently have.
This would be brilliant. Like if you had a fire ability and you were close to a fire source, you could recharge it or even bolster it, make it stronger.
That's right. So if we wanted to put in a system whereby magical weapons had to be recharged by a certain element and you had a flaming sword, every time you go past a torch, you could put in this visual effect just to show it. We won't be doing that in the course because it's a little bit out of scope, but we will be showing you how you could do it if you wanted to add it in. Another thing we could do, right now I've got a strength of 3, strength of -3, and it's a repulsor, which I think is lovely. You can decide which one of these will actually work this way. You can also put in like your attenuation, like how sharply does it work, how slowly, and all the rest of it. You can put in directionality. Now, if the directionality is 1, it'll only deal with the forward direction of the sphere, right? So it's not going to the center of the sphere, it's going to forward, which is -Z. Or if you're from the United States of America, aluminium. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do with that. Now that we have particles that can do that, and particle trails, which I haven't played with too much, I'm not entirely sure how to get it to work. But the spell effects alone are incredible. There's other things we can do as well. Now, this is going to look a little bit unrealistic because this is not how fire works, but let's go into our fire and let's put a different particle in. And this particle is going to be quad mesh. Watch it crash. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to save it.
Wise man, wise man.
New material. I'm not that wise. New standard material 3D. And alpha. You know what? Let's yeah, that'll do. Okay, first thing I notice, it's black. Why is it black? It's not.
You just had to reload the scene.
Exactly. It's buggy. Beta, whatever. I want to change the size of that to be a bit smaller. So 0.25, 0.25. Great. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I can go into flames and I can give it a sub-emitter, which is, let's put turbulence back on just to make this really
This
obvious.
is so cool.
If I can remember where it is.
Can each one have a sub-emitter?
I'll put it at end. And I believe I have to put that under here. It's been a while since I played with sub-emitter. So let's keep the velocity and where do you have to put that in? Oh, I have to assign the sub-emitter at the top. Right. Okay. So let's give this an effect. So what's happening is every time one of these particles dies, it's spawning one of these. Now, at the moment, there's not enough of these being spawned. So let's make that look like that. And let's see if we can prettify it.
I mean, that could be maybe an ember or something like that if it was every so often.
Yeah. But let's make it smoke. It's going to look weird, but you know, we're doing it. We're doing it live. I also want to make sure users albedo is on. Okay, smoke doesn't work like this. I am aware of that, right? That's not what we're doing. In fact, just to get rid of that entirely, let's put it as magic. Magic works like that. Everyone knows that. That's how magic works.
I suppose you could just change how gravity affects it and things like that. That's the difference.
That's what I'm about to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got it on add, and let's go into our process material. Turn off gravity.
BB Game Dev says, I've got to say that it looks quite good. I'd say that the lighting and volumetrics are looking good by default, which is great. It's great whenever you can use a game engine and the aesthetics are there right from the beginning. Maybe even better than Unity.
I don't know. What I will say is definitely competitive. Better is going to be a real subjective term here. And there's going to be things that it does better than other engines and other engines do better than it. Like, that's just how things work.
That was a very PC answer.
Wasn't PC. It was more like okay. Recently, there's been a bunch of attacks on social media about. Oh, is it going to crash?
Hey.
Recently, there's been a bunch of not attacks, hate on Unity, right? And it's not really deserved. Like, okay, there was bad communication, all the rest of it, but Unity is an absolutely fine engine. We gain nothing through engine wars. I prefer using Godot. I make no bones about that, but that's because it clicks with me better than because it's inherently a better engine.
Yeah.
There are certain things that Unreal is simply better designed for. If you want to make a large scale game with lots and lots of people at high speed in a high fidelity environment, shooting guns, Unreal does that out the box. If you have a team of 50 to 150 people, Unreal does that out the box. Hang on a minute. Where's the... I closed it.
Uh-oh. Good evening, Daz.
Hey, Daz.
I wonder... So just off of what Daz has said, I would imagine the particles are batched to save the performance hits. I don't know how the particles are handled in Godot and how much of a performance hit it would have.
Or how much is going to be optimized. But... Oh, that's right. I was playing with fire, wasn't I? No!
All those settings you made.
All right. Sub-assign GPU particle 3. Great. Sub-emitter at end. Phenomenal.
Good evening, churros. Or morning or afternoon, wherever you are. Yeah, as BB Game Dev says, you were playing with fire. You
Nice.
got burned.
This code is on fire.
Yes, and Pacos there. Unity is not just an engine; it is a service, business entity, marketing department, blah blah blah. And it was a boneheaded decision from a entity of that colossal game engine.
Which is going to happen, right? Like, sometimes people say silly things or make silly decisions. It doesn't mean that the tool is not worth using. You don't have to use the tool. If you've decided, you know what, I'm done with this, that's cool. That is entirely your right. But it is not in and of itself better or worse than Godot or Unreal. They're good for different things, and the styles work for different people. There are plenty of people just don't get on with Godot.
I mean, one could argue, make with the point that it's a very large entity. I'm hoping that they can not sort out, but maybe develop a decent asset store for the Godot game engine. It is very helpful having it integrated in both Unreal and Unity, the two other engines I have a lot of familiarity with.
I just got a message saying, "Are you okay? You look a bit flustered." I'm fine. I'm way too hot. My sweat allergies are killing me. For those of you who don't know, I have the dumbest allergy in the world. I'm allergic to my own sweat, which for a mammal is a problem because we sweat.
It is.
All right. So we brought that back. Let's make this prettier.
You know what? Yeah, and we've got plenty of time in our diaries. Why don't we create the asset store for the Godot game engine?
I mean, there are always rumors that it's coming and people are working on it and all the rest of it. There have been attempts to make third-party ones. Did I turn off? I did. Unshaded. No, not unshaded. Add. Yeah. All right, we'll leave it mix and unshaded.
I
We'll just
like
set
that
it
as
there
well,
now.
Daz. Daz just mentioned he likes how the new alpha builds are all downloadable. They you used to have to
Yes.
compile it, which made it inaccessible for many people who maybe just were scared of the whole compiling thing. And of course, less users and less testers means less bug reports, which means it takes longer to
Yeah.
flesh out and fix any of the issues that might happen.
You know
Oh,
what? I'm going to do this slightly differently. Let's do a color ramp.
I have heard the
And
rumors of an asset store as well.
yep, go from there to there. Great.
So whilst you're playing with that, Churros has said he's discovering Godot student. He's just finished
Very
the
nice.
Hoppy Days video about signals and elegant code, and he's really impressed with signals.
Signals are amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. Okay, here's what I was trying to do before we crash. So I've just saved and saved and saved and saved. Go to Sub-emitter, keep velocity. And then I'm going to turn turbulence back on our flames. And turbulence.
You've got fire and bubbles. Fire bubbles. So this is an underwater level now.
I don't know. It's magic. I was going to do smoke, but it's like smoke happens at the center. It doesn't happen at the edges. That's bad. So let's just make it magical. But what's happening here is every time one of these particles ends, if there are enough undrawn particles for the sub-emitter, in this case these bubbles, it will take the current position of that fire particle, that ember, and its current velocity. I'm not applying any velocity. And just add it in. And what I might do, just to mess around with these particles a bit more, because you know, is rotate them randomly. So now we go back into our room. Okay, did you see what happened there? When I came into the level, we have no bubbles for a second. So I save that and I go back into the level. Takes a while for the bubbles to come in, right? Now, part of the reason for that is we're waiting for the fire to be drawn, and the fire isn't drawn straight away. So let's fix that. Let's go into our fire.
Also, like
And
a pre-process, it's called. Nice.
yes, we're going to pre-process 2 seconds worth of fire. What that means is when we load it, it's going to simulate as if it's been running for 2 seconds, which is enough time for these to come in as well.
Nice.
Now, if it's just the fire, you wouldn't notice that. But if it's fire and a secondary effect, so if you've got lightning and sparks or rain and splashes, because you could absolutely have it colliding on a surface and doing sub-emitters of smaller drops that are at collision and only at collision. That's absolutely possible. And you can make a little box around your character so the rain bounces off their hat. That's fine too. But I'm really happy with that. Like, as little effects go, that's not bad. And all we have here is an unlit corridor, 2 bubbly torches. I think we actually have a little directional light from in here.
I believe so. BB Game Dev, those reflections of the fire in the stone were screen based.
Yes, they are. Let's take a look.
Because I think you turned it off again. So save before you do it.
Oh, that was from the old one.
Okay, yep.
Here's my SSR. Actually, this is SDFGI. Or is it just simple roughness? Oh, wait, this stone doesn't have...
On its materials? That's just the Omni light that's in the torch, isn't it?
Yes, it's exactly what it is. Now, there is a way of doing this, if I can remember what it is. Reflected light. No, reflected light from the background. There is a way of doing this. Is the amount of steps? Anyway, the lights are being reflected, right? We can see them. These are being reflected down there. I don't know how clear it is when I'm streaming. The Omni light, not the particles, are being reflected. That's why we're getting that effect. But there's probably ways around that, but I'm also a big fan of this effect.
Very ominous.
Yep, it's just two particles on top of each other. And the black one here is much slower. And the scaling is done in a way to make it look nice and blobby. But it's just told, prioritize this layer. So we've got two alpha layers, but the one in front is always drawn in front, which, especially for a billboard, is kind of useful. And I just like what we did with Bob's skull. Like the fact that we haven't textured it and it's kind of a quick and easy model really doesn't show. So how are we doing for time? Because
we are coming up to the 50-minute mark.
okay, we've had a lot of crashes, and I wanted to look at navigation, but I didn't get it working. So instead, why don't we move over to questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, interpretive dances, and jingles?
They can't see me at the moment, but I'm doing pretty much what Jan's doing.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
No, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
I'm going to close down Godot 4 before it crashes my entire system and makes me reset the computer, which it hasn't done this time, but
it's done before. I should really switch to both of us as well. Otherwise, you're just a small square in the corner. Welcome back, me. Hi. So yes, we're at that time of the show where you guys get to ask us questions or not, or it can be about anything.
I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening with the new code changes to GDScript. I'm a big fan of the way that they've made the tween nodes work, which you can also see in 3.5. I forgot the word tween from it there. But rather than having to create a tween node, tween is just built in. So you just call a tween and it creates it and does the thing.
That's really useful.
That's really, really great.
Useful. Yes. I don't know. So the reflections of the particles, you'd be pretty much talking probably about ray tracing at that point to get the fire.
I would imagine so. Well. I would imagine so. Like it's reflecting light.
Or you'd have to
there is a way we could reflect materials as well.
Yeah.
But the particles themselves, I don't think would count.
No. And you could spawn actual lights. That would be crazy.
I mean, it might be because I told them don't receive shadows and don't cast shadows, and it's just not calculating them that way. I don't know. I believe it's not. I think that you just don't see the particles and reflections.
I've predicted the next question.
You did.
Hello,
Milligon on tick. I believe they are. I mean, I'd have to do some research. There's still an on tick thing for tweens. But one of the important things you can do now is you define your tween with way less code, by the way. So instead of like var tween equals $tween dot interpolate properties brackets, what node we're tweening, what property we're tweening, it to, what's the initial value, what we're tweening it to, yada yada yada. There's far fewer, but you can also tween parallel. So you can have multiple tweens happening at the same time or in sequence.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Right. You don't have to say, start this tween, 10 seconds later, start this other one.
Yeah. You
could just say, do this tween, now move on to the next one, or have these things happen at the same time, which is great. What did you mean earlier when you said Unreal is on my radar? Mikey lives in an airbase, and Unreal have bought a plane. Boop. Actually, we might as well live in an airbase.
I don't. I live between like 3 air bases, so it can get quite loud around here. But yes, To answer that question, what do it's on my radar. I've been wanting to get back into Unreal, and it was so. This was a conversation over on our Discord earlier on today, and I had already mapped out for Unreal Engine 4 a load of material stuff. So when the
Yep.
question was asked about, oh, I'd love sort of like an artistic in point for Unreal to understand how materials work, what choices you would make, etc. I was like, I kind of have a syllabus already written, but I'm busy doing other stuff at the moment. So no promises, but
Yep.
it's on my radar.
Would multiple ticks on a node at the same time is that bad? As I say, I haven't actually played too much with it. I played a little bit with tweens. They're kind of awesome. It took me a while to figure out how to do it because this was back in Alpha 3 or so, and the documentation was still being written. UE5 course confirmed. I mean, I will tell you right now, we would love to do a UE5 course. It keeps coming up.
Boop,
Whether or not that's a promise
boop,
is up to Mikey.
boop. I'm just gonna do that whenever anybody asks. You can clip that and gif it onto the on the Discord.
I mean, I would have gone with
No, radar, not sonar.
no, it's on your sonar. You're underwater.
It's on my lidar.
So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. I like the consistent naming stuff. I like the new navigation, which I didn't get to show you, which is you drop in a navigation agent into a rigid body, and it just handles the movement. You don't have to write movement code for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Churros has got a question about discovering Godot, I presume.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with those. I don't have those videos. I might have to go back and re-record them because I lost a bunch of data a while back, which is annoying. It might be that Godot 4 comes out before those come in, but I would still have to record them because people did kind of pay for it, and we don't want to
That
like,
makes sense.
okay, bye. The problem is the last month or so, I've been a little bit sick and nothing major, but my fatigue levels have been off the charts.
I think
Um,
everybody in the UK has with the 40-degree heat wave and
with the 40-degree heat wave and everything else, and my meds have decided that my body doesn't recognize them. It's just going to start all over again, which is fine. And
I'm
like,
not
I'm
laughing
fine
at
and I'm
you
healthy
yet.
and all
I'm
the rest of
laughing
it.
at Daz.
No, totally. But the last couple of weeks, I have managed 2 hours of productivity followed by a nap, followed by 2 hours of productivity followed by a nap. Like it's kind of thrown me. But yes, no, it's definitely a thing I'll do. Boop. You thought your Bluetooth headphones were running flat because I'm listening while making dinner. Low battery. Thank you for joining us, Todd.
Yep. And I'll catch
Um,
up with you with the email you sent through. I might look at it tomorrow with a fresh head rather than later on tonight,
okay.
but I'll get back to you.
While Mikey trolls Daz, Mikey, it's Splendor next week, right?
It is Blender next week, and we've got a surprise. We may even have a guest as well next week, but this is why I'm not going to say what it is because nothing
Is
is.
it Sinead O'Connor?
No. Hang on, let me Google who is. How do you spell
Oh my!
Sinead?
I'm so old.
And that elicited the response that I wanted.
Oh. Medic. How's the UE situation on Linux? Haven't looked in a while. I don't know. I don't
So
play with
I
UE,
can
and
make.
Mikey doesn't play with Linux.
Well, I can comment old old me maybe two years ago. I was running a Linux machine. It was based on Pop OS, which is an Ubuntu, but it came with preloaded with the NVIDIA drivers and things like that. One of the things that was holding back Linux at the time, and probably still is NVIDIA's drivers. So I was playing
Yeah.
in Unreal 4, and there's I forget what it's actually called in the settings. It's tessellation, where you can use a height map to actually distort geometry, which is a really awesome thing. And I'd spent the weekend I was away. I had my laptop, which was running Windows, mapped it all out, went back to record it, and it wasn't working. It took me half a day to figure out the reason why it wasn't working is not because I was a numpty, it's because the drivers on Linux didn't support tessellation or Unreal's version of whatever it was trying to do on the GPU. So that's all I can say. I'd love to hear an up-to-date version with UE5, but who knows?
I would normally plug Linux at this point, but my Pop OS is unable to update because Ubuntu's phased updates seem to have broken it. So
I'd love to get a little dig in there about reinstalling, but we won't.
didn't you have to reinstall like last week?
Oh, I a whole new redid my computer and everything. There is a video coming on that, but I actually have a lot of respect after trying to do a video on a computer. Not only is it incredibly difficult to actually video a black machine with black hardware and not make it look like it's covered in dust or fingerprints, it's nearly impossible. But on top of that, it's like all this B-roll that you just take for granted during the
Yeah.
thing. It's like you don't want to just listen to me, you want to see sexy computer parts, etc. And like, no, 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 no. It's it's basically done, but it needs lots of work now for it to be a good video to watch, an engaging video to watch. Whew.
Blackosh is saying that it looks like they've been releasing the Unreal Engine binaries for Linux, so that might make it easier. Actually, I have a question for you about Unreal. Can Unreal do 3D?
No, it's 2D only, and only first-person shooters. So your original Dooms and Wolfenstein, it handles with class.
That was my go-to response when people who
But
Unreal developers were like, "Can Godot do 3D?" Like, don't, just don't.
But you do get ray tracing in the 2D environment, so that's fine.
Just catching up with the questions here.
Yes, it can handle a lot of sprites. Wasn't that new engine, Sprite engine, or nice Sprite?
I saw a video had been posted about it. I didn't watch it.
And they got a new lighting engine as well. Blue Sprite.
Very nice. I still remember the original Unreal tournament. That was a lot of fun back in the day.
Oh, I love that. I love the level with the two towers. It's a capture the flag map, and if you were really good,
with the sniper positions,
there were like 3 spawns on left and right, and 1 behind. And of course, if you were a good sniper, you could be at the top of the tower going, "Oh, spawn, doop, spawn, doop," and only if the person spawned behind would they not get nailed by him.
Yeah, or if the other sniper was good.
Kill.
That was an amazing level. It's kind of the gold standard of a capture the flag level because it's the one people always mention.
It was so enjoyable.
It's very, very narrow, very long. It's got cover. It's lots of little dips and things.
Yeah. And it was
and it makes everyone think that they're a godlike sniper until they mess up and the other sniper gets them.
Yeah. Which on a hectic map, but also I used to play it a lot with. I'm not sure whether it was low gravity by default or whether that was just a mode I enjoyed playing. But I remember jumping across the map and bounding, and of course you'd be like, "Haha, no one can see me against the." Yep, you respawn.
I remember trying that. The enemy snipers would just pick me up every time.
Yeah, I love that game. I preferred it than Quake 3 at the time. Didn't get on with Quake 3 versus, and I think it was the big versus Unreal, and I think Unreal Tournament because of the large open areas that Unreal had versus Quake 3 was more arena. It was very tightly knit at the time.
Unreal Tournament was graphically breathtaking for its time. It also had a very different sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like Quake was very like, let's dial in the grimdark, and like the original Quake was 9 Inch Nails did the music for it and stuff. And I am a huge 9 Inch Nails fan. Like I have seen them in concert a number of times. But it was very, I guess today would call it emo, or is there another name for the Gen Z kids? Elmo? It's very Elmo.
Hello. Misa gonna blow your head off. No, that was Jar Jar Binks. What am I doing? Anyway.
I'm cooking.
I think that's a great place to wrap up this evening. I think that's been an amazing look at Godot 4. And
So we saw a bunch of crashes, and there's
yep.
some stuff I'd like to have shown you, but I couldn't. But I'm really excited. Like, I'm really happy to see where it's going. I'm really excited to get some courses out on it, and I'm really excited to see what you guys make, and I'm really excited to see what we can make.
And next week, so next Monday, 7 p.m., might have a guest on, and we might be doing something exciting. But I'll let you know closer to the time. As soon as it's confirmed, I will announce it to everybody over on the
And the
Discord.
week after that, is it Toucan Chat or is it us playing? I'm completely out of.
Yeah, why not? One of those two. We'll let you know.
It's one of those two. Yeah, so I'm going to go get myself a bunch of water and cool down.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Bye!
Bye! Press it!
Press it!
Press it!
Thanks, everybody!
Thanks, everyone.
Boop.
Press it!
Boop.